Hello! Okay, we're back. This weekend is UFC 156. So many great fights to talk about, and I'm not going to be doing a preview video. This is going to be a video somewhat along the lines of a one I did at the beginning of the year called Life Lessons Learned in Pro Wrestling. And while some of it was serious, there was some humor added in. And what inspired the topic was the fact that one half of the main event is Frankie Edgar. And if you followed Frankie Edgar's career, you'll know that this is a guy that is considered small for his weight class when he was a lightweight, and for some reason and for some he manages to pull through and not just scrape by. A guy comes back and he really puts on a war, and he's basically been known as a guy that's unbreakable, almost a guy that's, you could take like the iron on my floor and turn it on full heat and blast him as hard as you could in the face, and he'll come back and he'll still fight you. He's a guy that could lose the first 2 rounds of a fight and in the 3rd round fight you like he actually just won the last 2 rounds. He's a person that can be completely blasted in the same way that Grey Mania blasted him in that 1st round and then come back and pull something out of nowhere. And you watch those kind of things and it's quite inspiring to watch. And that's the thing about fighting, and that's one of the many aspects of MMA that I think draws people in and appeals to people, is the fact that it's quite reflective of life. It's quite reflective of the things you can go through on a day-by-day basis or a week-by-week basis, or things that just happen to you. You get to know a lot about a person in an MMA fight. You get to know a lot about a person by observing and watching them. But you get to know a lot about a person's heart and their mental state and how strong they are mentally, physically, the heart they have, how much they are spiritually, in a sense. All those elements you kind of get to know. And it's interesting because I see a lot of parallels between fighting and life. I've seen people in life who have had literally everything, and I mean everything, handed to them. Money, cars, girls, everything, everything they've wanted handed to them, and you put them through a tiny bit of adversity and they can't take it, and they fold, and they struggle, and they don't know how to recuperate, and they're never the same again. And then you see people who have adversity in their life. A good friend of mine, he was in his final year of university, and tragedy after tragedy after tragedy after tragedy happened in that year. And he just kept fighting, and he kept pulling through, and he kept fighting, and he kept fighting, kept going, to the point where he ended up getting a first class degree for the course he was doing at uni. And that was quite an inspiring thing to see. And I see fights where guys are getting completely destroyed. Remember Scott Smith and Kung Lee 3 years ago, where Kung Lee just completely owned the guy. I am pretty sure there was 10-8 rounds in that fight, and Scott Smith held on to the very end and then knocked the guy out. Anderson Silva, when he fought Chael Sonnen the first time, Chael was all over him. He was basically 1 minute and 25 seconds away from being announced as the UFC champion, but something in here in Anderson and something in here in Anderson kept him going, and then he ends up pulling out the win. Not many people in life and in fighting can be put in situations like that and keep going and have the will and the wherewithal to survive and keep, fighting back. I just find that very interesting, and that's the thing that I've learned from it, is that no matter what happens, no matter what life throws at you, the difficult things that get thrown at you, whether it's finances, personal life, family life, things like that, if you know how to get back up on your feet and you know how to start swinging back and moving forward and pushing forward, you're going to end up having the result that you want to have. Anyways, that's a very strange video to say. I'm not sure if I made much sense here. It's a strange video. Maybe someone can go into it a lot deeper. Maybe someone can explain it a lot better than I can, but that's just my way of saying it. And if on a personal side, if you want to talk about when MMA has inspired me as a fan, I remember when I was returning to education and I was on this course to return back to get onto a degree program, and it was one of the worst years ever, and I mean it was a terrible year for a number of reasons. Split up with this person I was with for about 4 years, my health went to the toilet, everything. Everything that could have happened happened. And then there was a problem at the college that I was at. Something happened with the portfolio, and I wound up having to stay up for 3 nights in a row with no sleep to try and remake the stuff back up again. And then more problems happened, and it was like a big setback, like a huge setback. And I was even told right there and then by the person in charge, you have no chance of getting in to the course that you want now. You're not doing another access course ever again. And that was devastating to hear, and it threw me off. But you know, at that same time, I remember seeing someone like a George St. Pierre, and he got knocked out by Matt Serra, and he lost to Matt Hughes by submission before that, and he eventually came back and he won the belt, but then he lost to Matt Serra, and then he came back even stronger. And that kind of inspired me to push forward and come after what I wanted to go after. When Randy Couture fought Tim Sylvia, and that was around the same time that this happened, everyone said, Tim Sylvia, oh my god, why is Randy coming out of retirement? Tim Sylvia is going to just wipe the floor with him. Look at the size difference. What Randy's this? Randy's never going to win the belt, surely. And then look what happened. Randy just wiped the floor with him for 3 rounds and broke the guy mentally and physically. And then he did even more against Gabriel Gonzaga, and it was quite an inspiring thing to see. And things like that inspired me to come back and to push forward and to find ways and to anything, the tiniest thing I could find and exploit and go forward with that could help me get back onto the course. That's what I did. And what I did was I appealed against what was made, the decision made against me. I proved certain things, and then sure enough, we fast forward and I'm in university and I'm a year and a half away from graduating. So, just a weird thing to talk about. You tell me, does MMA inspire you in life? Are there life lessons in MMA that you could learn? Or do you just enjoy it? Because sometimes that's what it is. You just enjoy it, and it makes you feel good on a Saturday night. Before I go, I hope everybody enjoys the MMA show that's on this weekend. It's the UFC 156. Alistair Overeem and Bigfoot Silva. I'm going to say this right now. Blood's going to be shed. I expect carcasses to be on the floor and someone's getting put to sleep. Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo going to be possibly fight of the year. I can imagine Aldo is going to throw a ton of leg kicks at that guy, but I can see Edgar catching a couple of them and trying to get him down. I think that's going to be a great fight. I love Frankie Edgar, by the way. He is an incredible fighter, and Aldo is amazing as well. And I think this is going to be one of those fights that moves the division up. Other fight that was on there was Rashad Evans and Nogueira. That's going to be a fun fight to watch. I'm not too sure what they're going to do. I expect Rashad to stand with him a bit, but around the later rounds to take him down. Ian McCall's fighting Joseph Benavidez. I look forward to that. That's going to be another great fight. And I'm actually going to head off now because I've got to get going and get on with my stuff. But you let me know what you think about all of the things that I mentioned and the things that matter to you. And I am going to head out. Oh, I sounded like Phil DeFranco there. Take care.